Welcome to your daily dose. My name is Robert here with my pal Susan, the original dose partner, and we're here together because Susan said, "Hey, you have time for a dose?" And this happens. Sometimes Susan and I have an idea, and we call each other and say, "Hey, Batman. Hey, Robin. What you got?" So, hey, Robin, what you got?
Yeah. Um, I have a lot of n new opportunities to discover what it means to have had Parkinson's for
Mm,
10 years
mm.
and counting. And, there are things I read about and there are things I see with my friends having, and somehow they hadn't been landing on me, and now they are. And I'm forgetting things, I'm getting things mixed up. I burned dinner several times. Um, And there's one thing that I want to do every day, and it's the answer to the terrible reality that I'm facing because I have this diagnosis, and that is cognitive decline. Things are going away and stuff, and consistently I find myself going in one direction, and that's right back to my story. That's right back to my writing. And it's changed a lot in reflection of what I'm feeling. I'm I'm expressing it through my writing, Robert. Susan couldn't even tap into it.
See, that's
Ellie's
amazing.
pissed. Ellie is
Yeah,
frustrated. She's pissed. She's
I want to highlight that, not to cut you off, just to highlight that, and
no.
then let you roll forward because repeatedly people look at this process and say why, right, or how, and how is it important, or what is the effect. And what you're expressing, and you're not alone in this, is about a truth and a reality that just you weren't going to get at in certainly straight narrative writing, which is typically what we see, testimonial type writing. Here's me. But in working around the edges and working through the freedom of aesthetic distance, a character you have. You just told me something really big, and people who don't know this about you, anger is not a place you go lightly. Anger is not a typical spot for Susan Scarlett. So that you allow yourself the freedom, much like we talked about John and Doris and others in our community, giving all of us that, because I don't go there lightly either. But the freedom to go there and the power to go there, the justified anger, sounds like you're finding the place in your writing. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
All right,
I-
continue.
It's the thing that struck me that made me get in touch with you and say, I want to say this to you, um, is not that I'm thinking about what Ellie's going to become and then writing it that way. It's happening. she's getting, she's having stuff happen to her. I mean, the process of writing fiction is really something anyway, and I hadn't had that experience before, but man, to discover attitude, and behaviors. And then there's this release because I wrote about it, and it's not like I don't still have the stuff happen and forget stuff and whatever. Um, it helps
But
to be
but
able to put it
it's
in.
how you deal with what happens. The inevitable is the inevitable, but how you deal with it, right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, and I am one of those people who have had such a easy run of things,
Relatively.
including deep brain stimulation surgery, which is a really big deal. And I just, flew through it. And, I would never, I would never say it's it's easy and it's not that bad, except that by comparison, that's how it's felt and still does, even though there's new symptoms and stuff. But I don't get away with that anymore. I mean, I wasn't trying to, I was speaking my truth, but you know, I'm, yeah, there's so many ways this is happening.
Yeah. So reiterate for me, if you will, the value, like you said, because there's an identity thing with Parkinson's that because it is such a, snowflake disease in the sense that everybody's a different type, right? And the way it comes apart. Reiterate to me the value in having the tools to be able to assess your emotions and, as opposed, from a slightly externalized place, right? Because I think that that's the key that most of us, we don't if we're only writing about ourselves, we think it's not that bad. We think our lives aren't that interesting. We think we're not heroes. This is kind of a general flattening most of us do based on a lack of perspective. That space that you allow yourself, and as you hear me constantly demanding, where's the stuff that's happening? Why am I reading this? Does it reflect back to you to go, oh shit, that stuff is happening in my life. I just wasn't paying attention to it or calling it what it actually is over here too. Am I drawing that line right?
Yes, yes, yes. And there's this element of um, gratitude, Robert, that there's this gift that you gave me and all of us that I just fought for the longest time. That, you know, the gift of some kind of drama or something other than rainbows and butterflies and puppy dogs and happy endings and all that stuff. And it was so foreign to me to go into that space emotionally. I didn't have language and vocabulary to write about it, so that I fought it from that perspective for a long time. And then I kind of forced myself to do it, but what it did was unlock the rest of it. It's maybe I'm where Doris was a couple years ago. Maybe I'm where Amy was a couple years ago. Maybe I was John was before all of them. That it's like, it's my truth.
Well, and it's not a one-time visit. Sometimes people mistake that. Because you're angry, like, oh, I remember when that happened. It's like, yeah, I still get angry. I just know, Chris and I were talking about this last night. I know better how to understand it and accept it when it's there, as opposed to no, it's not that. I'm going to avoid it. I'm going to try to reshape it, reframe it, call it anything but what it is, and instead go, nope, I'm angry, and guess what? I get to be, and I'm going to express and be right.
And in my case today, I almost went to an MRI that I rescheduled, but I
Mm,
neglected to put it on my calendar, the rescheduling of it.
yeah,
And also today, I burned dinner for the second time.
and
And
that makes you feel how?
it makes me aware of two things. One is the distraction. The reason I wasn't paying attention to the dinner burning is I was sitting here with my little family, my little dragon family.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, um, and the other part, I think, is what I'm experiencing right now because I can't remember what the first thing was. Um, tell me again what you asked me.
I've lost it at this moment too, so we're together.
Thanks. Yeah.
It's
Um,
okay.
yeah. I guess it's the awareness that something as serious as cognitive decline is the only answer for that. Oh, I know what I was going to tell you. Twice in the last very short period of time, I've completely forgotten to take my medication at night and just didn't remember it until I was awakened in the middle of the night by pains. And I'm like, what is wrong? And then I was like, God, this feels like Parkinson's pain. I,
Yeah.
and when this happened night before last, I I thought, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll look on my phone where I write down that I took it, and it was written down that I took it. And then I just kept thinking, this feels like Parkinson's pain. And then I went and I looked, and I did the same thing I did a couple weeks ago. I took my morning pills instead of my evening pills, which include the stuff that helps me sleep and helps me not have pain. So I had this long period of time with no help, right, from medication. Um, so the reality of all that is tough. And I think one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you about this is that there's a something that's happening that I didn't anticipate, and you probably did. But when you said to me 4 years ago, or whatever it was, close to five, or whatever it was, I'm the face of Parkinson's. Your yes and exercise, and all of that represents, and I'm the face of Parkinson's. Well, guess what? The face of Parkinson's is changing. I used to be a blonde. I was blonde when you asked me that, but that's not what I mean. And so we have a really accurate picture here. 10 years in, looks like this, and
Well,
it'll look
you know,
different again.
yeah, change as we know is inevitable. Because I can hear people almost saying, maybe watching this saying, well, isn't everybody as they're aging going through things? Yes. And that's a constant question we have within our group, right? Is it Parkinson's? Is it aging? Is it XYZ, right? Yeah, because not much as sometimes we'd like to throw everything in the Parkinson's bucket, it isn't necessarily so. There's too much unknown to say whether it is or isn't. However, it certainly has an effect, right? And the question isn't about whether or not there's change. The question is twofold, I think. A, are you aware of the change? And B, what are you doing about the change?
Yeah, yeah, and I feel so grateful that I have a place that I'm drawn to
Mhm.
go. And then I think I heard you say in the last couple days that you hope we who have written for the Success Stories calendar our little synopsis, that we will have our piece finished by the Parkinson's Congress in May. And that was so awesome to be given a deadline.
Yeah.
So
I-
awesome.
I'm glad you heard that and saw that in fact came out today. So for everybody watching the success stories, folks, and if you haven't gotten your copy yet, hey, you can still do so. Have you got yours yet?
I haven't checked today's mail.
Okay, well, it's coming. The Success Stories calendar, which features people like Susan, who have done their wonderful work making their success stories. Ba, ba, da, ba, ba, ba. There she is. Um, this is what she's talking about, and that these stories are written in here. And what we've done is, in a very, I think, liberating and wonderful way, we have written in here for most of these. They say things like a novella in progress, right, for Harmony Rising. And the deadline that she speaks of is the World Parkinson's Congress coming up in May 2026. We're very happy to say in the dark background here, Boys of Summer, Third Base, will be making its premiere at I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a very subtle change because in the previous months I've been saying during because I couldn't actually say, I didn't know it was going to be at. But now I can say at, so we're officially accepted. It'll be premiering at and also during. We'll have a secondary screening in Phoenix public facing. And because of that, we know we have a platform. Between that and the abstract presentation I'm going to do with our friends at PMD Alliance for support group study and attitudes, we have, and maybe even another event or two, we have an opportunity to get in front of people. And that's where I want as many of your stories completed as possible to be ready to distribute in whatever form possible. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. I don't necessarily mean they're the hard copies, whatever. But to be able to say in front of, an audience of potentially thousands, here are, not only are we going to see you on the screen saying I'm a success story, but here's a story, right?
Yeah, here's a story, and yeah, yeah. Um, I, I think in my lifetime, for the most part, deadlines were threatening. It
Hmm.
was intimidating. It would be pressure, and to hear you say that, and then I thought, okay, I'll get this confirmed at the board meeting tomorrow, because I didn't know we were going to talk about it, but it was a gift. It really was. Yeah.
So that's important because we know all of us in space struggle. That's everyone, right? I think I have a little more skill in this regard than the average person because I've been operating outside of traditional means for most of my adult life. So deadline setting and being responsible for it, which is part of being entrepreneur and filmmaker or whatever. These are things. If you don't do it, nobody's looking over your shoulder. You just fail and starve. So so yeah. But this is where, like you say, hard deadlines make me say, and opportunities say, oh, geez, I'm a part of something. And I hope that's what I really want all of you to see. I'm not doing this to be cruel or put pressure or anything else. It's to say, folks, we've got an audience. If our goal really is to amplify voices and accelerate the cure, well, we've got an audience of a couple thousand people at this major multi-international event, and they're ready to hear your story and, to understand why success stories are different than testimonial stories, what the value is of being heard this way. This really can be a launch pad for us for insights like the one you just brought up to talk about how Ellie has given you a different voice. You know, I, that's amazing.
Told me. I mean, I didn't even know it was in there, that I was just like Doris, just so frustrated.
Well, and here's the
And then
thing:
to
none
have
of you
some place
all.
to go when I'm feeling blue or sad,
Yeah,
and drawn, and it's a creative process, and
yeah.
that stimulates what few dopamine droplets are still running around in there.
Well, you mentioned, I mean, because writing in a, I'll just call it old school kind of way, can feel the opposite of that for a lot of people who are either intimidated or have been traumatized by the form and by certain kinds of teachers. I really do think, you know, the form we have, because like you said, it is a joyful, celebratory style of class, the 90 minutes we spend together. The mix of different methods between music and improvisation and discussion and film clips, reading, our own works, all those things, it lends to a multi-sensory type of experience to where the 90 minutes goes by so fast.
Yeah.
And then, you have a result week by week. And really the differentiating thing most recently has been this chat GPT tool, which is still evolving. And I know it still freaks people out. There are still people who go, oh, I could never, or isn't that cheating? This, and the other. I go, well, what I know and what I've seen in your guys' work, as well as my own, used properly, it's extraordinary, right? Used in improperly or without thought, yeah, it can be both a detriment and it can even be a trap. So I don't want to take away the it's not the tool, it's the application of the tool.
Yes. And in my case, I forget that it's there, and then I'm like, okay, how do I get from here to here? And I'll be thinking and stuck, and then I'll think, oh wait, let me go ask my chat GPT buddy, and I'll just say, how do I get from here to here? And it'll give me a few ideas, and some I like and some I don't.
So there it is, right? It's number one, learning how to talk to it, recognizing it. And I was, again, having this conversation with my sister last night, who is very much not even on the fence, like anti
Oh my gosh.
ChatGPT in her life. And that's, it's fine. I don't blame her for it, but I recognize that she's not alone in that world.
Yeah.
Um, and to recognize how to speak to it. And that's the same advice I gave to her that I used to give in the classes and you've taken. Speak to it like a person. Treat it like an assistant. It really responds well in those ways. It's not a person. Recognize it's not. However, if you treat it like a person, and similar to what you also said right there, you ask it for a couple ideas. Therefore, you're not having it do it for you, but it's spurring some thought in there. And you could very well like none of them. You could like 1 out of 20. And it's still valuable because what it's doing is it's helping you ask better questions. You're like, no, that's not quite right. Let me reframe that question. No, that's not what I like either. No,
Yeah,
it's
that's right. Like it funnels it down for you. And the,
yeah,
where I'm sitting here being a person with memory challenges
yeah.
and other related cognitive stuff that you would think would maybe make it impossible to create fiction. And there's something about having that. It's like talking through my story with you or talking it through with Chip. It just jump starts little triggers, little fires things start, and then I'm off.
And that's what I like. That's the right application. It's not to be told. It's not to be given the keys to the kingdom. It's to be inspired by. And what I hear you say more of these days, which I like too, which is empower your no, that's not quite right phrase as well. Because if you're just taking whatever it says and going, okay, yeah, that must be it, you need to develop a critical eye and also be willing to absolutely walk away to go, none of this is working and I'm just going to shut it down. Because you're not ready to see it or it's not producing the thing that's making you move at this moment. But that's very different than what we saw. And I know because you were part of so many of these classes, people give up. We saw a lot of people give up in the first several iterations of this class because they felt like they couldn't. It took too long. It was too hard. They were seeing other people do better, and they would eventually stop turning things in. And that's, as you know, one of my things is turn it in. I don't care what it is. I don't care how bad you think it is. Turn it in. Week by week, it's going to become better.
Well,
But
and
that's the process.
the gift, the way that structured of the comments from your classmates, and then going over it, your comments, their comments, and going over it.
Yeah.
It's an incredible support for a new writer.
Well, and you need that. We all need that because I mean, especially if like you said, you don't have the belief system of being a writer. I mean, once again, there's an identity thing. I don't have any issue with that. I have considered myself a writer since my early teen days. I got some nice positive strokes. I loved reading, and it's not like I was an amazing writer, but enough people said, "Hey, there's something there." And I went, "Ooh, really?" Just kept going with it. So and again, I don't today say I'm the most amazing writer ever, but I'm a very competent writer. I'm not worried about that. People
Yeah.
who aren't are outnumber the people who are. And those are the people I'm trying to bring in to say, come in with your fears, your doubts, your insecurity. Bring me your tired, your poor, the huddled masses, right? Those are the people I want to come into these cinema therapy classes under, the guise of really fun and adventure of, in this case, we have Stand By Me and Rocky. Oh my, I mean, you're going to have a good time right there, right? I mean, if you talk about the social aspect, it's going to be there, and we're going to, not just me, but the class, bring you along. You're going to become more than you thought. And I mean, if that ain't worth the price of admission, I don't know what is.
And then in the process of writing, and you give it complete latitude. It doesn't need to be about the movie. It doesn't need to be about Parkinson's. It doesn't need to be about anything in particular.
Yeah.
That latitude that gives us a kind of freedom.
Well, let me, just you saying that, I go through again our success stories right here, and I start, I mean, John's story that I wrote based on his work, it doesn't specifically have anything to do with Parkinson's. It has an allusion to potential Parkinson's in the Agent Orange exposure, but that's all it is, right? But it's still part of who John is, right? We see in Tom's story, he doesn't have anything built in for Parkinson's. He's talked about maybe teasing it toward the end, but he's more doing a different type of identity. Again, the idea of something being taken away in a newspaper closing, that could be a metaphor for Parkinson's taking something away, right? So it's the human element that comes through there, right? Again, in what might be seen. We see in BJ's story, right? The time travel piece. There's
Time
nothing
travel.
inherently, right, that says Parkinson's. And in fact, he made a big deal about asking me. He said, "Is this okay? Can I do this?" I said, "You're a person with Parkinson's. The Parkinson's is going to come through in some fashion, overtly or metaphorically." Doris's story, which is, I mean, this shocked her the way it came out. It had to do with a belief system that she held that is now being mirrored back to her about attitudes of looking upon those who are differently abled, and her impatience as a
Yeah.
person who wasn't impacted younger in her life and now living and feeling like I'm one of the people I would have stared at.
That
And
was such a brave thing for her to write that down.
the guilt and the shame, and the mirror reflection of the two women, right, in different spaces, and allowing herself, what a gift to give to, these people from this perspective, right? And again, that mirror idea, by the way, which I just love because this came from BJ, right? And so as a
Yeah,
person in the class, all of us talking, he goes, "Hey, what if you yes-anded
that's
that with
right.
that?"
You did, yeah,
And it's just this is a great, beautiful piece of art. This really is. I mean, unto itself, even un, uncompleted, incompleted, incomplete, in terms of the stories, them being works in progress. The fact that it is where it is right now, it's already a success story. We are already success stories, and the and to that is it's not enough, right? We're success stories, and we want more. It's okay to want more. It's okay to want to be published, to be completed, because then you really get to say I did it. And I mean, here's the real scary part. Then you may even wonder, "Ooh, I have another story. Awesome, great, right?" Because
that's inevitable. I mean,
yeah, I hope
it's
so.
yeah, it's tickling me and Chip and his story. It's sort of their storylines presenting themselves that could be another story or don't have to be.
That's right. That's right. But once again, going back to where you started this conversation, you've been empowered by the tools of storytelling, the hero's journey, all the things involved with it, so that you could recognize these pieces of yourself and therefore allow yourself, in this case, to be angry, an emotion that doesn't come easy to you, and now you get to smile better because you recognize, yeah, I gave space for anger, and that was okay.
And I still have this venue to endlessly available to me. A couple days ago, I couldn't type right and stuff wasn't working right, and I instead of feeling defeated by that, I thought, I think there's some kind of way to get my computer to dictate that I can dictate stuff and it can turn into, you know, a transcript. And that empowered feeling was I'm more accustomed to giving up, to not believing in myself. And I've got Ellie out there climbing this mountain with this little troop of people. She shouldn't be out there. I mean, she's got
But
Parkinson's, and
that's so important you said that because there's that hugely judgmental word, shouldn't. And guess what? Susan Scarlett probably wouldn't. But the thing we journey to together, as your Sherpa and you as the writer, is that she needed to do the uncomfortable things. There wasn't a story until she started doing them.
that's one of the biggest reasons I wanted to talk to you today is how much difference it made once I could get over the happy ending of each little, not the ending, but each little thing.
Right. Because that has been your proclivity, right? To keep wanting to end things with the all right. And it's like, stop all writing. It's not all right. There needs to be constant. And in fact, it's the opposite of all right. It's getting worse.
Well, it is. Literally it is.
It doesn't mean you can't find places to celebrate. And this is back to the phrase you used earlier. I wanted to highlight again. You said the gift of drama. That's just a gorgeous title. Hang a star on that one. See if you can do something with that. The gift of drama. There's a reason. I mean, the Greeks weren't doing this to try to sell tickets and make millions of dollars. Okay. They were telling stories and tragedies and all these things to try to understand the nature of being alive. And by the way, just because we know about the Greeks doing it, they weren't the only ones. Cultures separated by the Greeks by thousands of years and thousands of miles of geography who never met each other were doing the same thing in different ways. We've been using the gift of drama to try to figure out what this life thing's about and how to make the best of it.
Because if you don't have that kind of tool, you can fall right down the into the black sticky mud that I was falling into the first year that I was doing this work with you, and I was trapped, and I was
You
gonna.
become a victim of a false narrative. You really are, when that happens, when, a belief system, and often, most often, certainly the case with you, an unexplored belief system.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
really true. I've been taken care of. I've had problems solved for me, and now I'll come up against a little problem like I couldn't type very well, and instead of just giving up, I work toward an alternative process.
What's the
But I do
workaround
go
there?
through this period of being blue, and I forget that I'm going to come out of it until I do.
You know this story. I brought it up to you before. The brilliance of Steve Martin is recognizing writer's block, his blue, as it were, and literally throwing a party. Hey, guess what? I've got nothing, everybody. Let's have a good time. That silly, absurd, wonderful reaction to being blue, being depressed, where we think we want to go hide. We don't want to bother anybody. We don't want to be a burden. No, no, it's time to be a big fat burden on everybody. Really loud. And by the way, since it's your burden, you should pay for the party. But have a party. um,
Yeah.
that that is, we see it in minutes, which is insane. In the Jam for Joy, people show up feeling like a burden, a less than zero. I shouldn't be here. I don't want to drag everybody down. And in a minute of giving somebody a pomegranate and you going, oh, these seeds are perfect, you're transformed. You just made my life better by handing me this pomegranate. My God, they're out of season. How did you get? Oh, perfect. Right? And that happens like that. That gift giving, that receiving of gifts, that exploration, that there's more to you than, like you said, the prison like perception gave you, which said you're this.
And it seemed like the best one, to believe in the rainbow and to believe in the happy endings.
Sure.
I mean, I'm going to be 75 tomorrow. For 75 years, almost 75 years, that was a deeply held belief system that I was privileged to be able to have happy endings. So I got whacked with with a few serious medical diagnoses and skated through most of it until I don't know, just nothing, something like forgetting to take my medicine or burning dinner and forgetting appointments and
Yeah.
getting a lot where I am in the middle of a sentence.
But I want to highlight, yes, and I want to highlight the neat thing you did going back to the beginning of this call that you could have taken this all down and just gone, ugh. But you not only reached out to me, You reached out to me in a public sphere, hello Daily Dose audience, to say I'm being the thing right now.
Yeah.
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 And I apologize for being the thing, but I'm getting calls from my wife. I think I need to go pick up my kids. So let
Chris.
me close with a thank you, gratitude to you. Tell you you are a success story, and that success story is only getting better. And yeah, so we'll end it there, and I'll see you tomorrow on your birthday at the Jam for Joy.
Yeah.
All right, you take
And
care.
board meeting.
And the board meeting, birthday board meeting. All right, take care.
Bye.